Hey y'all, Andrew here with Free Tours by Foot New Orleans. Today we're going to show you how to use our city's streetcar system and its public transit in general to see some of the best scenery and get to some of the best destinations. Streetcars in New Orleans are the same thing you might hear called trolleys or cable cars elsewhere. They're public transit vehicles that run along rails with the help of an overhead electrical cable. They're the best known part of the local public transit system, and the particularly famous one is the St. Charles Avenue streetcar. We'll start with how to ride it, then we'll move on to the other streetcar lines, and finally, since the streetcars can be high traffic and there's a lot of places that they don't go, we'll also share a few other transit options that might be helpful if you just need to get from point A to point B. So, the St. Charles Avenue streetcar. It's famous for a few good reasons. It's the oldest continually operating streetcar line in the world. The route's been used steadily since 1835, and the cars themselves are historical artifacts. They were built in the 1920s. And the St. Charles line is named for the street it mostly runs along, St. Charles Avenue. St. Charles connects the French Quarter to the Garden District and much more of uptown New Orleans. And between the trees, houses, and historical sites along the way, it's one of the most impressive streets in the city. Seeing all that from on board a moving national monument? Not bad. And we offer an audio tour where I can share stories about the route with you as you ride. Check out the video's description for a link. So, how you actually do the ride. The streetcars have stops usually about every other block along their route. There are different kinds of signs to mark transit stops, and you'll start to recognize them as you explore. Most visitors board the St. Charles streetcar from the edge of the French Quarter, where the first stop is at the intersection of Canal Street and Carondelet Street. It can take some looking to find that spot. All the street names change when they cross Canal, so the street that's called Carondelet on one side is called Bourbon on the other side. And there are also other streetcar lines around that spot. So the stop you're looking for is on a street corner, not in the median, and the car you're looking for is green, not red. Once you've found your stop, all you have to do is wait. How often a car appears depends on the time of the day and the day of the week, and since the streetcars move through traffic, arrival times aren't always predictable. If just waiting and seeing isn't your style, you can download the New Orleans RTA app, where you can see a map that tracks all the cars. That's especially useful for folks who need to know about wheelchair access. The St. Charles streetcar gets a historic exemption from fitting all its cars for accessibility, but there's at least one running along St. Charles at any given time that is accessible, and the other lines are across the board. Once the car comes, it'll stop as long as the driver sees someone standing there. And if you're boarding from the end of a line, it'll stop no matter what. Multiple doors may open, but you should board from the front, next to the driver, and pay the fare. In terms of payment, you have a few options. First, you can pay cash. The base fare is $1.25. The fare is reduced to 40 cents for seniors or for disabled riders who have a special ID issued by the New Orleans RTA.
The ride is free for children 5 years old and younger.
You pay into a kiosk near the driver. It only accepts cash, and it only dispenses change in the form of a little ticket that's only redeemable with the New Orleans public transit system, so it's a good idea to have exact change. You can also use a Jazzy Pass. A Jazzy Pass gets you unlimited rides within a set span of time, and they're available for a day or 31 days. You can get those from various vending machines and convenience stores around town by ordering them online to be delivered by mail, or if you just want a one-day pass, you can ask the driver and pay cash for it into the kiosk. If that all sounds a bit old world, yeah. But you can also buy most kinds of tickets on the RTA app and scan a QR code on your phone when you board. After you've paid, you're in. You'll see rows of seats down both sides of the car, and if you've got a group and you're lucky enough to find a couple of empty benches together, you can reverse the back of one and make the seats face each other. A lot of the day, though, you'd be lucky to find a seat at all. The streetcars are very popular, so if you're looking for a seat and a good view, you'll want to ride early or late. To see where you're going, you can get help from pamphlets that are available on board, the map in the RTA app, or the screens and intercoms that'll announce upcoming stops. The most common stop on the St. Charles line is Washington Avenue, right on the edge of the Garden District, and just a block from where we start our Pay What You Will Garden District tours. When you see that your destination is up next, you can either pull the cable running above the windows or press a button to request a stop. Once the streetcar has stopped completely, you can step off. The back door is where they ask you to exit, and it opens, I promise, if you push good and hard. In terms of destinations, the Garden District is far from the only reason why you might want to ride the St. Charles streetcar. Besides the French Quarter, the route has stops near the World War II Museum, the historic Lower Garden District, lots of bars and restaurants, Tulane and Loyola Universities and Audubon Park, and the Oak Street area, just to name a few. For sightseers, the visual highlight is the stretch from the Garden District through the universities. The ride goes a lot longer beyond that stretch, and it doesn't go in a loop. It runs from one end of the line to the other, and at the end, everyone has to get off. Usually you'd have the option to just jump back on, pay the fare again, and do the return trip, which could be great if you want to see the other side of the street. But you have alternatives. If you get off around Audubon Park, for example, where I am now, you could do the walk through the park and, once you reach the other side, pick up the bus along Magazine Street, the other most famous uptown corridor, full of shops and restaurants and art galleries, and ride it back down to the French Quarter area. This is where a day pass comes in handy. You can move between routes and hop on and off as many times as you like. Besides St. Charles, there are 4 other streetcar lines, all built in the 2000s, and traversed by bright red cars. 2 of the lines run along Canal Street. Along the edge of the French Quarter, where most visitors will pick them up, they share a route. But the endpoints are pretty different, and you can see which one you're dealing with by reading the signs on the car. If they say City Park/Museum, it's headed to the corner of City Park, near the New Orleans Museum of Art, the Besthoff Sculpture Garden, St. Louis Cemetery No. 3, and lots else. If the streetcar says cemeteries, then the endpoint is a cluster of classic above-ground cemeteries, most of them free to enter, with some stunning monuments. Regardless of the endpoint, you could use either line along Canal Street to reach the Bayou St. John area and restaurants along Carrollton Avenue. Then there's the Riverfront line, which runs along a short section of Canal Street and then turns to border the Mississippi all along the edge of the French Quarter. There's a protective levee that keeps that streetcar from offering an actual view of the river, but it can be useful if you're staying on or around Canal Street and you want a leisurely way to get to, say, the French Market, Frenchmen Street, or Crescent Park. And finally, there's the Rampart St. Claude line, which connects part of the business district to the border between the French Quarter and the Treme, and finishes in the Marigny, running near the Superdome and Armstrong Park along the way. As you might notice, our streetcar lines tend to be anchored to the French Quarter area, and while plenty of locals use them to commute, they stop well shy of being a comprehensive way to get around. It wasn't always like that. The St. Charles line is the sole survivor of a system of streetcars that used to run all over town. Nowadays, buses do that job, and while they may be less romantic to ride, sometimes they're a lot more convenient. They're run by the same New Orleans RTA system that operates the streetcars, so the fares are the same. Transfers and Jazzy Passes work on either one. The RTA app can help you plan rides that include both, and as of summer 2021, the buses have begun a transition to being powered by electricity, just like the streetcars. There are dozens of bus lines, but for visitors, useful ones might include the number 11 that runs along Magazine Street, the number 5 and number 88 that connect the French Quarter area with the Treme, Marigny, and Bywater neighborhoods, the number 91 that runs along beautiful Esplanade Avenue, or the number 202 Airport Express, which is not the fastest, but definitely the cheapest way to get between the downtown area and Louis Armstrong International Airport. For future reference and for useful links, you can find this information in the form of a blog post on our website, which is linked in the description. And I'd love for you to check out our video walks along St. Charles Avenue. There are enough sights and stories here that we've done 2 of them. We've also got videos on City Park, Esplanade, and Metairie Cemetery, all of which you could visit with the help of the streetcars. And as always, please drop us a like to help other folks find us. Let us know what you think. And if you like tipping your guides, you'll find links in the description. Thank you so much, and see you soon.